Hey everyone, this is Lilly, and welcome to the English Mastery Podcast. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here with me today because we're diving into something that's completely revolutionizing how people learn languages around the world. If you're new here, welcome. This is your space to grow your English skills, gain confidence in speaking, and discover practical strategies that actually work. Before we jump into today's amazing episode, I just want to remind you, if you're loving what you hear, please take a second to like this episode, share it with someone who's also working on their English journey, and subscribe so you never miss a new episode. We release fresh content regularly on our podcast playlist, so make sure to check out that collection for all our latest episodes. We've got tons of valuable content waiting for you there. Now, let's get into today's discussion. So, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt stuck in your English learning journey? Like you're doing everything right, but something's still missing? Maybe you practice textbooks, take classes, watch videos, but when you need to actually speak to someone, your mind goes blank. Or perhaps you don't have access to native speakers in your area, and you're not sure how to move forward. Well, that's exactly where I was a few years ago, and honestly, it was incredibly frustrating. But then something changed. Technology started evolving in ways I never expected, and one particular innovation opened up completely new possibilities for language learners like us. I'm talking about artificial intelligence, or AI, and specifically how AI is now transforming the way millions of people around the world are learning English. And here's the exciting part. It's not just about learning English anymore. It's about having a personalized, available, intelligent language partner who's literally always there for you, no matter what time of day or night it is. Think about this for a moment. 15 years ago, if you wanted to improve your English, you had very limited options. You either enrolled in a formal class, hired an expensive tutor, found a language exchange partner, or you did self-study with books and CDs. These options had real limitations. Classes were expensive, tutors were even more expensive. Language partners weren't always reliable, and self-study required incredible discipline and motivation. Most people would start strong but lose momentum after a few weeks because there was nobody pushing them, nobody giving them feedback, and no personalization based on their specific needs and challenges. Now, fast forward to today, and everything has changed. With AI-powered tools, you can access unlimited speaking practice, instant grammar corrections, personalized vocabulary exercises, and adaptive learning paths that adjust to your exact level. And here's what amazes me the most. These tools are getting better every single month. The technology that seemed science fiction just a couple of years ago is now available on your smartphone, accessible to virtually anyone with an internet connection. When I first started experimenting with AI for language learning, I was skeptical. I honestly thought, can an AI really teach me English like a real teacher would? But I was wrong. Not because AI replaced human teachers, they haven't and they won't, but because AI brought something completely different to the table. It brought personalization at scale, availability 24/7, zero judgment, and the ability to practice in ways that would be impossible in traditional settings. Let me break down what I discovered after months of testing various AI tools and observing how they're changing the learning landscape. The most revolutionary aspect is that AI doesn't replace human connection. Instead, it fills the gaps. It gives you practice when a teacher isn't available. It provides feedback when a partner isn't around. It offers explanation when you're confused at 3 a.m. and can't wait for your next class. It's like having an invisible tutor living inside your phone, ready to help whenever you need it. The statistics are actually pretty remarkable. A huge number of English learners around the world now use AI tools in their study routine, and the results are showing up in real-world competency. People are getting better at English faster than ever before, and they're enjoying the process more because it feels less like studying and more like having a conversation with a smart friend who's genuinely invested in helping you improve. Okay, so let's talk about the first major way AI can transform your English journey, and that's speaking. And here's why I'm starting with speaking. It's the skill that terrifies most people learning English, but it's also the skill that makes people feel most accomplished when they finally master it. I want you to think about something. What's the biggest fear you have when it comes to speaking English? For most people, it's not actually about the language itself. It's about fear. Fear of making mistakes, fear of being judged, fear of looking stupid in front of others, fear of not being able to respond quickly enough, fear of forgetting words. Sound familiar? Well, that fear is real and completely understandable because speaking puts you in a vulnerable position. You're exposing yourself. You're putting your imperfect English out there for the world to hear. Here's where AI becomes absolutely game-changing. When you practice speaking with an AI assistant, there's zero judgment. None. The AI doesn't laugh at your mistakes. It doesn't think less of you for struggling with pronunciation. It doesn't get impatient when you need to think for 5 seconds before responding. It just listens, processes, and helps you improve. This creates a psychological safety zone that's absolutely crucial for language learning, especially for speaking. I remember when I first tried speaking to an AI chatbot in English for an extended conversation. I was nervous. Even though I knew it was just software, there was still this mental barrier. But after about 2 minutes of conversation, something shifted. I relaxed. I realized I could just speak without overthinking every word. I could make mistakes, and the AI would either correct me gently or just continue the conversation naturally. That's when I realized the true power of AI for speaking practice. Now, let me explain how this actually works and why it's so effective. When you speak with an AI, especially modern AI systems with voice capabilities, several things happen simultaneously. First, the AI listens to your input. It processes not just the words you're saying, but also how you're saying them, your pronunciation, your rhythm, your intonation. Then it generates a response that's contextually appropriate and grammatically correct. And here's the key part. Many of these AI tools provide real-time feedback on your pronunciation and speaking pattern. Some advanced AI platforms will actually record your voice, analyze your pronunciation against native speakers, and show you specifically where you need to improve. You might get feedback like, your th sound could be clearer, or try emphasizing the first syllable of the word important, or your overall fluency is improving. You're speaking with better rhythm than last week. This kind of targeted, actionable feedback is something you'd rarely get in a traditional classroom because teachers simply don't have time to give each student that level of detailed analysis. Let me give you a practical example of how this works in real life. Imagine you want to practice ordering food at a restaurant because you're planning a trip to an English-speaking country. With an AI tool, you could set up a role-play scenario where the AI plays the role of a waiter or server. The AI might start by saying something like, "Good evening, welcome to our restaurant. Can I get you something to drink while you look at the menu?" And then you respond naturally. If you say, "I want the water," the AI might gently suggest that saying, "I'd like a glass of water, please." Or if you pronounce pasta in a way that doesn't match native pronunciation, it might model the correct way and ask you to repeat. But here's what's really powerful. You can do this practice exercise as many times as you want without feeling embarrassed. You can do it 10 times if that's what you need to feel confident. You can slow down your speaking, speed it up, try different variations of your response, and really internalize the language patterns. Try doing that in a real restaurant. You'd get kicked out after your second attempt to redo the ordering process. Another amazing aspect of AI for speaking is that you can access conversation simulations for basically any real-world scenario you might encounter. Nervous about a job interview in English? You can practice with an AI interviewer that asks you common interview questions, listens to your responses, and gives you feedback on both content and delivery. Worried about speaking with a doctor about your symptoms? You can simulate that conversation repeatedly until you feel confident. Need to give a presentation in English? You can practice it with an AI audience that listens and provides feedback on your clarity, pace, and organization. The beauty of these simulations is that they're pressure-free practice for high-pressure situations. When you finally get into that real job interview or that real doctor's appointment, you've already practiced it dozens of times. Your nervous system knows what to expect. Your brain has already rehearsed the likely language patterns. Your mouth has practiced the pronunciation. So when the real moment comes, your anxiety is significantly lower because you're operating from a place of prior success and familiarity. Let me share something personal with you. When I was preparing for a big presentation at work that I had to give in English, I practiced it with an AI tool for about 2 weeks. I'd spend 15 minutes every evening just running through my presentation, getting feedback, making adjustments, and practicing again. When the actual presentation day came, I walked in there feeling incredibly prepared and confident. Not nervous, not worried about my English, just focused on delivering great content. And you know what? My presentation went smoothly, and I got genuinely positive feedback afterward. I genuinely believe that practicing with AI beforehand made a massive difference in my performance. Now, another thing that's really interesting about AI for speaking is that it can help you build what I call fluency confidence. Fluency isn't just about speaking perfectly, it's about speaking continuously without long pauses for thinking. It's about having the ability to keep a conversation going even when you're not 100% sure about every word. And AI can train this specific skill through exercises that push you to speak without stopping. For example, an AI tool might give you a topic and ask you to speak about it continuously for 2 minutes without pausing. Your topic might be, describe your typical day, or talk about your hobby, or explain why you're learning English. And you just keep talking, even if you make mistakes, even if you need to use simpler words than you'd prefer. The goal is to keep going. And when you finish, the AI can give you feedback on your fluency score, point out where you had pauses, and suggest ways to speak more continuously. This kind of practice trains your brain to think in English rather than translating from your native language. And that's the real breakthrough moment for any language learner. When you stop translating in your head and start thinking directly in English, everything gets easier, faster, and more natural. You respond quicker, you sound more fluent, you communicate with more confidence. Let me give you some specific speaking exercises you can do right now with an AI tool, or even practice on your own. First, there's what I call the 1-minute monologue. You pick any topic. It could be your favorite food, your weekend plans, a memorable trip, whatever, and you speak about it for 1 full minute without stopping. Try not to prepare what you'll say beforehand. Just start talking and keep going. This trains your ability to think on your feet and speak continuously. You can do this daily, and you'll notice that by the end of a week, you're speaking more smoothly and fluently. By the end of a month, it becomes noticeably easier. Second, there's speed conversations. You have a quick conversation with an AI where you're racing against the clock. The AI asks you a question, and you have to respond within 30 seconds. It's not about giving a perfect response. It's about responding quickly and naturally. This trains your brain to access language immediately without overthinking. It's incredibly useful for developing real conversation skills because in actual conversations, you don't have a minute to think about every response. Third, there's accent focus practice. This is where you listen to a native speaker say a sentence and you repeat it immediately, trying to match their accent, rhythm, and intonation as closely as possible. This is called shadowing, and it's one of the most effective speaking exercises you can do. An AI tool can provide unlimited sentences for you to shadow, and over time, this naturally improves your accent and makes your English sound much more native-like. Fourth, there's real-world scenario practice. You pick a real situation you'll encounter, going to the bank, asking for directions, ordering food, checking into a hotel, and you practice that specific conversation repeatedly with an AI. You can adjust your responses, try different approaches, and really internalize the language patterns that matter for that specific context. All right, so we've talked about how AI can transform your speaking ability, but let's move on to another crucial skill that so many English learners struggle with: listening. And I want to tell you, listening is absolutely foundational. You can't speak what you can't understand. You can't have a conversation if you don't comprehend what the other person is saying. So let's talk about how AI is completely revolutionizing the way we can develop this critical skill. Here's something I noticed in my own learning journey. I could read English pretty well. I could write decent emails. But when I watched movies or listened to podcasts, I often felt lost. Words were blurring together. I couldn't distinguish where one word ended and another began. Native speakers seemed to be speaking at impossible speeds. It was incredibly frustrating because I knew these words, I'd studied them, but my brain couldn't process them when they were being spoken naturally by a native speaker. And I realized the problem. I had spent most of my study time reading and writing, not listening. My ears weren't trained to English. And that's when I started exploring how AI could help me specifically train my listening ability. And let me tell you, the tools available now are absolutely incredible. The way AI helps with listening is multifaceted. First, there are platforms that can speak to you in natural English using various accents and speaking speeds. You can choose your difficulty level, beginner, intermediate, advanced, and get content matched to that level. But here's what makes it different from just watching random YouTube videos. These AI tools are specifically designed for learning. They can adjust speed, they can repeat sentences, they can show you transcripts. They can isolate specific sounds or words. They're interactive learning tools, not just passive content. One of my absolute favorite ways to use AI for listening is through what's called shadowing with feedback. Here's how it works. The AI provides an audio clip of a native speaker saying something, maybe a sentence, maybe a short paragraph. You'll listen to it once or twice. Then you try to repeat it exactly as the native speaker said it, matching the pronunciation, the rhythm, the intonation, everything. The AI listens to your attempt and tells you how closely you matched the original. Did you nail it? Does your pronunciation need adjustment? Did you miss the rhythm? This is powerful because it's not just training your listening, it's training your speaking at the same time. Your ears are learning to recognize native English. Your mouth is learning to produce it. Your brain is making connections between hearing and speaking. It's like a double workout for your English development. Another amazing listening strategy I've discovered through AI tools is comprehension laddering. This is where you listen to audio at different levels of support. On the first listen, you hear the sentence with full transcription visible, so you can see every word as you hear it. On the second listen, you hear it with no transcription. You have to understand it purely by listening. On the third listen, maybe you hear it at normal speed, Or maybe you hear it mixed with background noise to simulate real-world listening conditions. The gradual removal of support teaches your brain to develop actual listening comprehension, not just reading comprehension while listening. Let me give you a concrete example. Imagine an AI tool plays this sentence. She couldn't remember where she'd put her keys this morning. On the first listen, you see the full text while hearing it. You understand every word. On the second listen, the text disappears. You just hear the audio alone. On the third listen, maybe the audio is slightly compressed or there's some background noise. Your brain has to work harder to extract meaning. By practicing listening this way, gradually removing support, you train your brain to actually process English like native speakers do. Native speakers don't read subtitles when they're listening, they just understand. This practice helps you develop that ability. Now, here's something else that's revolutionary about AI for listening. It can help you understand different accents and speech patterns. English isn't spoken the same way everywhere. American English sounds different from British English, which sounds different from Australian English or Indian English. Native speakers. Regions use different intonation, different vowel sounds, different speech patterns. If you only practice listening to one accent, you might struggle when you encounter another. But with AI, you can specifically practice listening to different accents. You can set your learning to focus on British English for a week, then switch to American English, then try Australian English. You can listen to the same sentence spoken by voices from different regions and notice the differences. This exposure trains your ears to be flexible and adaptable, which is crucial if you work in international environments or travel frequently. Another listening skill that's often overlooked but incredibly important is listening for specific information. In real life, you don't need to understand every single word. You need to listen for the key points. If someone's giving you directions, you need to catch the street names and the turn instructions, not necessarily every adjective they use. If someone's telling you about their weekend, you need to understand the main events, not every tiny detail. AI tools can train this specific skill through exercises where you listen to longer passages and answer questions about specific information. For example, you might listen to a 2-minute conversation between two people at a restaurant and then answer questions like, "What did the customer order?" and "What time does the restaurant close?" This trains your brain to listen selectively and focus on what's important, just like you would in real conversations. Let me share a listening exercise you can start doing right away. I call it the Sentence Completion Challenge. Find any audio in English, a song, a podcast, a movie clip, whatever interests you, and pause it at random points. When you pause it, try to guess what the next word or next few words will be. Then unpause and check if you were right. This trains your brain to predict language patterns and anticipate what's coming, which is actually how native listeners work. They're not just passively receiving information, they're actively predicting and confirming. Another powerful exercise is speed listening. You listen to audio at normal speed, then at 1.5x speed, then back to normal speed. It sounds strange, but this actually expands your processing capacity. When you listen to something fast, it's a challenge. But then when you go back to normal speed, it feels easier and you catch more details. Over time, your listening speed naturally increases. And here's something I discovered. AI can help you understand context when you miss words. Let's say you're listening to someone talk and they say a sentence, but you miss 2 words in the middle. In real life, you might just accept that you didn't understand. But with an AI tool, you can replay the sentence, maybe hear it at slower speed, maybe get the transcript. The AI can explain any words you missed and why they're relevant. This kind of targeted support helps you build comprehension in your actual weak areas. Okay, let's talk about something that might seem simple, but actually has enormous impact on your overall English ability, vocabulary. And I'm not just talking about collecting random words. I'm talking about building a rich, usable vocabulary that you can actually deploy in real conversations, real writing, real situations. Here's what I learned about vocabulary the hard way. For years, I'd try to memorize word lists. I'd go through flashcard apps and try to remember the meanings of 50 words in one sitting. And you know what? Within a week, I'd forgotten half of them. Within a month, I'd forgotten most of them. It was incredibly frustrating because I was putting in effort, but the results weren't there. Then I started experimenting with how AI could help me learn vocabulary differently. And I discovered something revolutionary. Vocabulary learning is not about memorizing definitions. It's about understanding how words work in context, how they're used, what nuances they have, what words they typically appear with. And that's where AI becomes an absolute game changer. Instead of using AI to memorize word lists, I started using AI for what I call contextual vocabulary learning. Here's how it works. When you encounter a new word, either in reading, listening, or conversation, instead of just looking up the definition, you have a conversation with an AI about that word. You might say, "What does persistent mean?" The AI explains it clearly, in simple terms. Then you ask, "Can you use it in a sentence?" The AI gives you realistic examples of how persistent appears in actual English. Then you might ask, "What's the difference between persistent and stubborn?" And the AI helps you understand the subtle difference. Persistent is often used positively or neutrally, while stubborn can carry a negative connotation. Through this kind of interaction, you're not just learning a definition, you're learning how to actually use a word. You're building understanding of nuance. And because the learning is in conversation, not in a list, your brain holds on to it much longer. You're creating real memories, not just temporary memorization. Let me give you another powerful vocabulary learning strategy I've discovered, what I call synonym mapping. This is where you take a word you already know and you ask an AI to give you various synonyms or related words, and you explore how they're different. For example, let's say you know the word sad. You might ask the AI for synonyms. It might give you unhappy, depressed, melancholy, downhearted, blue, gloomy. Then you explore each one. What's the difference between sad and depressed? When would you use melancholy instead of sad? Which of these words are more formal? Which are more poetic? By mapping the relationships between words, you're building a rich network of vocabulary in your brain. You're not just learning isolated words, you're learning how words relate to and differ from each other. This kind of learning creates deeper, more useful vocabulary knowledge. Another thing that's amazing about using AI for vocabulary is that it can adapt to your specific interests. If you love cooking, you can learn cooking vocabulary. If you work in technology, you can learn tech vocabulary. If you love fashion, you can learn fashion vocabulary. The AI can generate conversations, exercises, and content specifically tailored to vocabulary related to your interests. This means you're not just learning random words. You're learning words you'll actually use in contexts that matter to you. And that makes all the difference in retention. Here's a vocabulary exercise I do regularly using AI. I call it word association building. You take a word and you ask the AI to tell you what words commonly go with it. For example, if the word is morning, you might ask, what words commonly appear with morning? The AI might say, early morning, bright morning, morning routine, morning coffee, good morning, morning news. Then you learn these phrases together, not as random combinations, but as natural collocations that English speakers use together. This is so important because native English speakers don't use words in isolation. They use them in specific combinations that have become natural through usage. When you learn these combinations along with the words, you start sounding more natural. Instead of saying, I drank coffee in the morning, which is correct but sounds slightly textbookish, you naturally say, I had my morning coffee, which sounds more native. Let me tell you about another approach that's been revolutionary for me, what I call vocabulary storytelling. Instead of learning words, you learn word-rich stories. You read or listen to a story, and you encounter new vocabulary in the context of a narrative that's actually engaging and interesting. Because there's a story, your brain naturally remembers the words better. You're not just memorizing, you're experiencing language in a meaningful context. The beauty of AI for this is that you can generate infinite stories. You can ask for stories on any topic, at any difficulty level, with any vocabulary focus. If you want to improve your vocabulary related to emotions, you can ask for an emotional story. If you want vocabulary related to travel, you can ask for travel stories. If you want vocabulary related to business, you can ask for business-related narratives. And each story naturally incorporates that targeted vocabulary multiple times in different contexts. Another powerful vocabulary strategy is what I call reverse definition practice. Instead of being given a word and asked to find its definition, you're given a definition and asked to find or guess the word. This might sound backwards, but it actually trains a different part of your brain. It trains your ability to recognize vocabulary that fits certain meanings, which is more useful in real conversations where you need to find the right word to express an idea. You know, one thing I've discovered is that vocabulary learning doesn't have to feel like studying. With AI, it can be conversational and engaging. You can play word games with AI where you try to describe a word without saying the word itself, and the AI guesses what you're describing. You can challenge the AI to explain difficult words in the simplest possible way. You can ask the AI to create tongue twisters using specific vocabularies to help you practice pronunciation of tricky words while building vocabulary simultaneously. Let me share some numbers that might inspire you. Studies have shown that when vocabulary is learned through conversation and context, the way AI allows you to learn, retention rates are approximately 70 to 80%. Compare that to memorizing word lists, where retention after a week is often just 20 to 30%. The difference is massive, and the reason is clear. Your brain is wired to remember things that matter in context, things that are emotionally engaging, things that are experienced through conversation. That's exactly what AI vocabulary learning provides. All right, so we've talked about speaking, listening, and vocabulary. But let's address something that makes many English learners groan: grammar. I get it. Grammar feels complicated. Grammar seems boring. Grammar rules seem endless and arbitrary. Why do we say I am, but you are, but then he is? It seems so random. Well, here's the good news. When you learn grammar with AI, it's nothing like those textbook grammar lessons you had to endure. Traditional grammar teaching often works like this. Here's a rule, here's 10 examples, now memorize it. Here's a quiz next Friday. And honestly, it's about as fun as watching paint dry. But grammar with AI works completely differently because grammar is taught through relevance. It's taught through conversation. It's taught through understanding why the rule exists, not just memorizing that it exists. Let me give you a concrete example. Let's say you're confused about when to use have versus has. In a traditional textbook, you might read a rule like, use has with third-person singular subjects, he, she, it. Use have with all other subjects. and you're supposed to just accept this and memorize it. But with AI, the conversation might go differently. You might ask, why do we say she has, but we have? And the AI explains, it's because has is the singular form for he, she, and it, while have is used for all other cases. I have, you have, we have, they have. The singular form is different from the plural form. Then the AI might show you examples in context. She has a car. He has a book. But when we talk about multiple people, we say they have books. We have time. Does that make sense? You see the pattern. Your brain naturally absorbs it because you understand the logic, not just the rule. And when you understand the logic, the rule sticks. Another way AI helps with grammar is through immediate, targeted feedback. When you're having a conversation with an AI, either written or spoken, and you make a grammar mistake, the AI doesn't just mark it wrong. It explains it. It shows you the correct version. It explains why the correct version is correct, and then it often offers you the opportunity to try again. This is learning in real time, which is infinitely more effective than getting feedback on a quiz a week later. Here's something that absolutely blew my mind about AI for grammar. It can explain grammar rules in different ways depending on your learning style. If you're a visual learner, the AI can create charts or diagrams. If you're someone who needs logical explanations, the AI can break down the grammatical logic. If you prefer stories and examples, the AI can generate narratives that naturally demonstrate the grammar point. This level of customization is something you'd never get in a traditional classroom. Let me give you another example. Suppose you're struggling with the difference between the present perfect tense and the simple past tense. This confuses so many English learners. I have gone to Paris versus I went to Paris. What's the difference? In a traditional class, the teacher would explain something like, present perfect is for actions that started in the past but continue to affect the present, while simple past is for actions that are completely finished, and most students would nod along while feeling confused inside. But with AI, you can have a real conversation about it. You might say, I don't understand. I have been to Paris and I was in Paris sound basically the same to me. And the AI might respond, great question. Let me explain the difference through context. I have been to Paris means at some point in your life you've been there, and this experience is still relevant to who you are now. You might say this when someone asks if you've traveled to Europe. But I was in Paris is talking about a specific time in the past. It was a particular event that happened and is now finished. You might say this when telling a story about a specific trip. Then the AI might offer you different scenarios to practice. If I say, I have eaten sushi 3 times, what does that mean? You think and respond, it means you've eaten sushi multiple times in your life. Exactly. And if I say, I ate sushi last night, what does that mean? That you ate sushi at a specific time. Last night. Perfect! You've got it. And suddenly, you understand the difference not through abstract rules, but through relevant examples and conversation. Another powerful aspect of using AI for grammar is that you can focus on exactly the grammar points that are causing you problems. If your native language doesn't have conditional tenses and English does, you might struggle with if clauses and conditional structures. But with AI, you can focus specifically on that area, get multiple explanations, do targeted exercises, practice in conversation, really master that specific concept. Rather than wasting time on grammar points you already understand, you can zero in on your actual weak spots. Let me share a grammar learning strategy I've developed. Grammar in context exploration. Rather than learning grammar rules in isolation, you learn grammar by exploring how it's used in real English. You might choose a grammar point like modal verbs. Words like can, could, must, might, should, would. Instead of reading rules about them, you ask the AI to show you how these words appear in real conversations, in songs, in movie dialogue, in news articles. You see them in context over and over until you naturally absorb how they're used. Your brain learns the patterns without you having to consciously memorize rules. Another strategy is what I call grammar reconstruction. You take a complex sentence you encounter and ask the AI to break it down grammatically. What's the main verb in this sentence? What's the subject? What tenses are used? Why is that tense used? By deconstructing sentences grammatically, you start developing intuition for how grammar works. It's like learning to cook by understanding the function of each ingredient, rather than just following recipes without thinking. Here's something else that's incredible. AI can help you understand the nuances and exceptions to grammar rules. English grammar isn't always perfectly logical. There are exceptions. There are situations where the rule doesn't perfectly apply. Rather than being frustrated by these exceptions, you can ask AI about them. Why do we say everyone is happy, but everyone are different is also sometimes used? And the AI can explain the nuances. Formal grammar rules versus how English actually evolves through usage. Understanding these nuances makes you a more sophisticated English speaker who can navigate different contexts appropriately. Let me give you a specific grammar exercise you can start doing immediately. It's called error identification and explanation. You present a sentence to the AI and deliberately make a grammar mistake. Then the AI corrects it and explains why it's wrong. For example, you might say, I is a teacher. The AI corrects it. The correct sentence is, I am a teacher. We use am with the subject I, are with you, and is with he, she, or it. By making mistakes intentionally and having them corrected and explained, your brain reinforces the correct pattern. Another exercise is grammar pattern completion. The AI gives you the pattern and you complete it with different sentences. For example, the pattern might be if, past tense, would, could, plus verb. And you create sentences like, if I had more money, I would travel around the world. Or, if I spoke better English, I could get a better job. By creating multiple sentences following the same grammar pattern, you're internalizing that pattern deeply. Okay, so we've covered speaking, listening, vocabulary, and grammar. But there's one skill that's often overlooked but incredibly valuable in today's world: writing. Whether you're writing emails, messages, social media posts, blog articles, or professional documents, writing in English is a critical skill. And guess what? AI can revolutionize the way you develop this skill. Most people think of writing as just a transcription of what they're thinking. You have an idea, you type it, you're done. But that's not really how skilled writing works. Skilled writing involves clarity. It involves structure. It involves tone. It involves choosing the right words and phrases to create the exact effect you want. It involves understanding your audience and adapting your writing accordingly. And here's where AI becomes incredibly valuable. When you write with AI support, you get instant feedback on multiple levels. First, there's the mechanical level: spelling, grammar, punctuation. But good AI goes way beyond that. It gives you feedback on clarity. Are your sentences clear? Is your meaning obvious? Could a reader misunderstand what you're saying? It gives you feedback on tone. Is your writing formal enough or too formal? Is it friendly or too casual? It gives you feedback on structure. Are your ideas organized logically? Does one thought flow naturally to the next? Let me tell you about my favorite writing practice method, draft and feedback loop. You write something in English. It could be a paragraph, an email, a journal entry, whatever. You share it with an AI writing assistant. The AI doesn't just correct your mistakes. It provides multiple levels of feedback. First, it identifies any mechanical errors. Then it comments on clarity. Then it suggests ways to improve the tone or style if that would help. Then it might even rewrite portions of what you've written to show you alternative phrasings. Here's the thing. This is invaluable because different people write differently based on their native language and their personal style. If English is your second language, your writing might sound slightly formal or slightly awkward in ways you don't notice. An AI can spot these things and help you adjust. Over time, as you receive feedback again and again, your natural instincts improve. You start writing in a way that feels more natural and more native-like. Another powerful writing strategy is what I call writing for different purposes. You don't write the same way when you're sending an email to your boss as when you're texting a friend. You don't write the same way when you're writing a job application as when you're writing a social media post. With AI, you can practice writing in different contexts and get feedback specific to each context. You might write the same basic information in different ways for different audiences, and the AI helps you adjust the tone, formality, and style appropriately. For example, imagine you want to communicate that she'll be late to a meeting. With a friend, you might write, "Hey, I'm running behind. I'll be there in like 20 minutes." With your boss, you might write, "I apologize for the delay. I'm currently experiencing unexpected traffic and expect to arrive in approximately 20 minutes. They're communicating the same information, but the tone, vocabulary, and formality are completely different. An AI can help you understand these differences and practice writing appropriately for different contexts. Another writing practice I absolutely love is journaling with feedback. Rather than just writing in a journal and never getting feedback, you write your journal entries and share them with an AI that gives you gentle feedback. The AI isn't judging your thoughts or ideas. It's helping you express them more clearly and naturally in English. You might write, "Today was very much busy, and I was feeling stressed from the many things." An AI might gently suggest, "This is clear, but could sound a bit more natural. Today was very hectic, and I felt stressed by everything I had to do." Over time, through this regular practice, your writing becomes more fluid and more natural. Here's something else that's revolutionary about AI for writing. It can help you develop your writing voice. Your voice is your unique style, the way you express yourself, that's distinctly you. When you're learning a language, finding your voice in that language is challenging because you're still learning the basics. But as you improve, developing a distinct voice becomes important. An AI can help with this by giving you feedback on your voice and even helping you experiment with different voices to find what feels natural to you. Let me give you a writing exercise you can start doing immediately. It's called rewriting for clarity. Take a piece of your own writing, an email you sent, a message you posted, a paragraph from something you've written. Ask an AI to improve it for clarity. Don't ask it to make it shorter or longer, just to make it clearer. Then compare what it suggests to what you wrote. What changed? Why is the rewritten version clearer? What can you learn from this that you can apply to your future writing? Another exercise is tone adjustment practice. You write a sentence or paragraph, then you ask the AI to rewrite it in different tones. More formal, more casual, more persuasive, more friendly, more professional. By seeing how the same idea can be expressed in different tones, you develop awareness of how word choice and sentence structure affect tone. You start developing the ability to deliberately adjust your tone to match your purpose. Here's something I've discovered. Writing in English becomes dramatically more confident and more effective when you understand that writing is not final until you want it to be. With AI support, you can write, get feedback, revise, get more feedback, revise again. It's a process, not a one-time event. And through this iterative process, your writing gets better and better. You learn what works, you learn what doesn't work, you develop intuition for English writing. Now, let me tell you about something that genuinely amazes me about modern AI. Its ability to personalize learning to an extent that was literally impossible just a few years ago. I'm talking about adaptive learning systems that respond to you as an individual, that understand your specific challenges, that provide content and exercises tailored to your exact level and your exact needs. Think about traditional education for a moment. A teacher stands in front of 30 students. All 30 students have the same lesson plan. All 30 students get the same homework. Some students are bored because the material is too easy. Some students are frustrated because the material is too hard. One size definitely does not fit all when it comes to education, but AI changes this fundamental problem. With AI-powered learning, the system is constantly assessing you. When you interact with AI, it's not just having a conversation, it's simultaneously gathering data about your level, your strengths, your weaknesses, your learning style, your interests, your pace of learning. Then it uses all this data to continuously adjust what it presents to you. If you're finding grammar exercises too easy, it automatically increases the difficulty. If you're struggling with vocabulary from a particular domain, it focuses more exercises in that area. If you learn well through conversation but struggle with reading, it emphasizes conversation-based learning for you. What's amazing is that this personalization happens automatically. You don't have to configure anything, you don't have to think about it. You just interact with AI and it's constantly personalizing the experience to maximize your learning. Let me give you a concrete example of how this works. Imagine you're using an AI learning platform and you're at the intermediate level. The system tracks your performance across different skills. Let's say you're strong in reading comprehension, but weaker in listening comprehension. And let's say you're strong in general vocabulary, but weaker in business vocabulary. The system notices this. So it starts personalizing your learning path. It recommends more listening exercises. It focuses your vocabulary learning on business-related content. It might even suggest that you spend less time on reading exercises since you're already strong there. But here's the brilliant part. Personalization goes even deeper. It might notice that you learn well when you're interested in the topic, so it learns what topics interest you. Maybe you love cooking, or technology, or sports. And it specifically creates content that combines your learning needs with your interests. So you're practicing listening through podcasts about cooking. You're practicing vocabulary through articles about technology. You're practicing conversations through discussions about sports. Your learning becomes intrinsically motivating because it's aligned with your interests. Another aspect of personalization is pacing. Some people can absorb a lot of information quickly. Other people need more time to consolidate learning. An AI system can notice your pace and adjust accordingly. If you're flying through lessons, it accelerates. If you need more time, it slows down. You're not locked into a rigid schedule. You're moving at your optimal pace. Here's something else that's personalized. Your challenge level. The system can measure something called the zone of proximal development. Basically, the sweet spot between material that's too easy and material that's too hard. Your challenges should be neither easy nor frustrating. They should be just slightly challenging, requiring you to stretch, but not to the point of feeling overwhelmed. A good AI system continuously adjusts to keep you in this zone. It's like having a tutor who's constantly calibrating the difficulty to match your abilities. Personalization also extends to feedback. An AI system that knows you well doesn't give you the same generic feedback for everyone. It gives you feedback tailored to your specific situation. If you make the same mistake repeatedly, the feedback might be more detailed. If you're struggling with a particular pattern, the feedback might include more examples. If you're on a roll and things are clicking, the feedback might be more encouraging and celebratory. The system adapts its feedback to be maximally useful for you. Let me tell you about another way personalization works. Goal alignment. Everyone learning English has different goals. Some people need English for work. Some need it for travel. Some want to study abroad. Some just want to enjoy English media. A personalized AI system learns your goals and focuses your learning accordingly. If your goal is to pass a specific English proficiency exam, it tailors content to that exam. If your goal is conversational fluency for traveling, it focuses on travel-relevant vocabulary and scenarios. If your goal is to watch English movies without subtitles, it emphasizes listening skill development. Here's something I've personally experienced with personalized AI learning. Motivation becomes easier. When you're learning exactly what you need at exactly the right pace through topics you're interested in, with feedback that's useful to you, learning becomes intrinsically rewarding. You're not learning because you should. You're learning because you're making progress on what matters to you. That shift from extrinsic motivation to intrinsic motivation is game-changing. All right, so we've talked about all the amazing capabilities of AI for language learning, but here's something that's crucial. All of this only works if you actually use it consistently. And this is where something shifts from being about technology to being about psychology and habit building. Because let me tell you, the single most important factor in language learning success is not how smart you are. It's not how talented you are. It's consistency. It's showing up day after day, even when you don't feel like it. I learned this lesson the hard way. I had access to amazing language learning tools, but I wasn't using them consistently. I'd be super motivated for a week, then I'd miss a day, then I'd miss a week, then I'd feel guilty and unmotivated and give up. Sound familiar? Well, that's when I realized that I needed to figure out how to build powerful habits around my English learning. And that's when I discovered that AI could help with this too. See, here's the thing about habits. Habits aren't built through willpower or motivation. Habits are built through a pattern called the habit loop. There's a cue that triggers the habit. There's the routine that is the habit itself. And there's the reward that reinforces the habit. The more you repeat this loop, the more automatic the habit becomes. With AI learning platforms, many of them are specifically designed to support habit building. First, they provide a consistent cue. You get a notification at the same time each day, reminding you it's time to learn. This cue is crucial because it removes the need for you to remember or decide when to learn. The system is reminding you. Second, the routine is built in. You open the app or the platform and you know exactly what to do. There's no decision-making involved. You're just following the established routine. Third, there's a reward system. You might get points for completing lessons. You might see your streak grow. 23 days in a row! You might unlock badges or achievements. These rewards, even though they're virtual, trigger real reward pathways in your brain. What's amazing is that once you've done this loop repeatedly, maybe 50 times, maybe 100 times, it becomes automatic. You don't need willpower anymore. The habit is established. You just naturally reach for your English learning app at the scheduled time because it's become a pattern in your brain. Let me share some specific strategies for building a powerful English learning habit using AI tools. First is the strategy I call commitment architecture. You're not just deciding to learn English, You're building a structure that makes it nearly impossible to not follow through. You set a specific time every single day to practice English. You put it on your calendar, just like you would an appointment. You tell someone else about your commitment, so there's social accountability. You use an AI platform that tracks your streak, so you become motivated to not break the chain. You've built a structure around your commitment, and that structure carries you even on days when you don't feel motivated. Second is the minimal viable habit. Often, people set unrealistic goals. I'm going to practice English for 2 hours every day, and they do it for 3 days and burn out. With AI learning, you can start with a minimal viable habit. Maybe it's just 5 minutes every day. Just 5 minutes. That's doable. That's not overwhelming. And here's what happens. Once you do 5 minutes, you often end up doing more because you're already in it. But even if you don't, 5 minutes is infinitely better than 0 minutes. And 5 minutes every day for a year is 383 hours of practice. That's massive. Third is habit stacking. This is where you attach your new habit to an existing habit. You already have habits that are well established. Maybe you drink coffee every morning. Maybe you commute to work. Maybe you have lunch at the same time every day. You can stack your English learning habit onto one of these existing habits. Every morning with your coffee, you spend 5 minutes in a conversation with an AI. During your commute, you listen to AI-generated English podcasts. During your lunch break, you do a vocabulary exercise. Because your English practice is now tied to an existing habit, it's much more likely to stick. Fourth is progress visibility. There's something psychologically powerful about seeing your progress. An AI platform that shows you your statistics. You've completed 47 lessons this month. You've learned 234 new words. Your speaking fluency has improved 23%. Is incredibly motivating. When you can see tangible evidence that you're improving, you want to keep going. You want to see the numbers keep climbing. Fifth is variety within structure. While consistency is crucial, variety prevents boredom. You want to do the same activity at the same time, structure, but you want the content and exercises to be different, variety. An AI platform that provides unlimited variations and content keeps things fresh and engaging while maintaining your habit loop. Here's something I've discovered through my own habit-building journey. Starting is the hardest part. The barrier to starting is often much higher than the barrier to continuing. So if you can get yourself started, you're usually fine. This is where AI notifications and reminders are gold. They eliminate the decision-making barrier. You're not deciding whether to practice, you're just responding to a notification. And once you've started, momentum usually carries you through. Let me tell you about the psychological concept of temptation bundling. This is when you combine something you need to do with something you enjoy. With AI learning, you can absolutely do this. You enjoy reading fiction? Use an AI tool to generate fiction in English and read it while learning vocabulary. You enjoy music? Listen to English songs and ask an AI to explain the lyrics while you're learning grammar. You enjoy games? Use AI-powered language learning games. By bundling your English learning with activities you already enjoy, you make the learning more pleasurable, which makes the habit easier to maintain. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the mechanics of learning English with AI, but let's talk about something that really matters, actually using your English in real-world situations. Because here's the truth that many English learners discover the hard way. You can be great at English in a structured learning environment, but then you get into a real conversation with a native speaker, and suddenly you feel like your English has disappeared. This gap between learning English and using English is real, and one of the most amazing things about AI is its ability to bridge this gap through realistic scenario practice. Imagine you're preparing for a job interview and you're nervous about your English. With traditional learning, you might study interview tips, practice common questions, read interview advice. But with AI, you can actually role-play the interview. You can practice it again and again with an AI that acts as an interviewer, asks you real questions, listens to your responses, and gives you feedback. Here's why this is so much more effective than traditional practice. First, it's real. You're not just thinking about your answers, you're actually speaking them. You're engaging your real skills, not practicing in your head. Second, it's low stakes. If you give a terrible answer, the AI doesn't judge. You can try again. You can practice the same question 50 times if you need to. Third, it's adaptive. The interviewer AI notices that you're weak in describing your strengths, so it focuses more questions there. Or it notices you handle technical questions well, but struggle with questions about your weaknesses, so it emphasizes those. Fourth, you get real feedback. Your answer was clear and relevant, but consider adding a specific example next time to make it more compelling. Let me walk through some common real-world scenarios where AI practice is absolutely game-changing. First, there's travel scenarios. You're traveling to an English-speaking country and you need English. With an AI tool, you can practice being at an airport, at a hotel, at a restaurant, asking for directions, accessing transportation. You can practice all of these interactions repeatedly until you feel confident. Then, when you're actually in the country, you've already done these interactions many times. You know what to expect, you know how to respond. You're confident because you've been there before, virtually, but still. Second, there's professional scenarios. Whether you're interviewing for a job, negotiating with a client, presenting to a team, or writing a professional email, these are high-stakes situations where you want your English to be excellent. With AI, you can practice these scenarios extensively before you're in the real situation. You can get feedback, make adjustments, and practice again. By the time you're in the real situation, you've already done it many times. Third, there's social scenarios. Maybe you're meeting new people, going on a date where English is the common language, attending a party where English speakers will be present. These situations involve unpredictability. You don't know exactly what people will say. An AI can simulate this unpredictability, asking you unexpected questions or steering conversations in directions you didn't anticipate. This trains your ability to handle real conversations where you can't predict everything that will happen. Fourth, there's customer service scenarios. Whether you're calling to make a complaint, asking for a refund, trying to troubleshoot a technical issue, or seeking customer support, you're going to need to communicate your issue clearly and handle the customer service representative's questions. With AI, you can practice these interactions and get better at communicating what you need, handling frustration calmly, and reaching a resolution. Here's something really powerful about scenario-based learning with AI. You can practice failures safely. In real life, if you're going for a job interview and you totally mess up your answer to a crucial question, it might affect whether you get the job. But with AI practice, if you mess up, there are no consequences. You can see where you went wrong, understand what you should have said instead, and practice a better response. Over time, you become less likely to mess up in the real situation. Let me give you a detailed example of how scenario practice works. Let's say you're going to have a meeting with your boss to ask for a raise. This is a high-stakes conversation where you want to come across as confident, professional, and clear about your value. With an AI tool, you can set up this scenario. The AI plays your boss. You present your case for why you deserve a raise. Your boss responds with questions or objections that real bosses might have. You handle those objections. You negotiate. By practicing this conversation multiple times with AI feedback, you develop the ability to have this conversation in real life with much less anxiety and much more effectiveness. Another powerful aspect of scenario-based learning is that it helps you develop what I call cultural intelligence in English. English isn't just a language, it's a medium for many different cultures. How English is used in Britain is different from how it's used in the United States, which is different from how it's used in India or Singapore. The expectations, the communication styles, the cultural norms are different. With AI, you can specifically practice scenarios from different English-speaking cultures. You can understand not just the language, but the cultural context in which the language is used. For example, in American business English, directness is often valued. People say what they mean fairly directly. In British English, there might be a bit more indirectness and politeness. In Indian English, there might be different formality levels. By practicing scenarios with AI that's aware of these cultural differences, you develop the ability to adapt your English appropriately based on context and culture. All right, so we've talked about all the amazing ways AI can help you learn English. But here's something I think is really important to address. How do you know you're actually improving? How do you stay motivated over the long term? Because here's what I've learned. Motivation is not a constant thing. Some days you feel super motivated. Other days you feel like you're not making progress and you want to give up. How do you navigate these fluctuations? First, let me talk about tracking progress. In traditional learning, you might get a grade on a test once a month. You know you're improving or you're not based on that. But with AI-powered learning, you can get much more granular feedback. You can see how your speaking fluency is improving week by week. You can track how many new words you've learned. You can measure your listening comprehension improvement. You can see your grammar accuracy rate going up. These metrics aren't just abstract numbers, they're concrete evidence of your progress. What's amazing is that this progress tracking is automated with AI. You don't have to do anything special. Just by using the AI platform consistently, your progress is being measured. And when you review this data, maybe weekly or monthly, you see the trajectory of your improvement. I found that looking at this data is incredibly motivating. Even when you feel like you're not improving, when you look at the data, you see the reality. You've improved. Maybe not as fast as you'd like, but you have improved. Here's a psychological trick I use. I compare my current performance to my past performance, not to some ideal performance. I might not be at native speaker level, but I'm noticeably better than I was 3 months ago. That's what matters. That's real progress. That's motivating. Another aspect of staying motivated is celebrating wins, no matter how small. Did you understand a movie in English without subtitles? That's a win. Did you have a conversation with a native speaker and they understood you? That's a win. Did you complete a week of daily practice without missing a day? That's a win. These small wins accumulate, and celebrating them keeps your motivation high. With AI tools, many of them build in celebration mechanisms. You get achievements or badges for milestones. You see your streak of consecutive practice days displayed prominently. When you complete a lesson, you get encouraging feedback. These might seem like small things, but psychologically, they're powerful. Your brain is getting rewarded for your efforts, which reinforces the behavior. Here's something else about staying motivated. Connecting to your deeper why. Why are you learning English? Is it for career advancement? Is it to travel more comfortably? Is it to consume English media you love? Is it to connect with people from different parts of the world? When you're feeling unmotivated, reconnecting to this deeper reason can reignite your motivation. And interestingly, AI can help with this. If your goal is to watch English movies without subtitles, you can actually practice that with AI, watching movies with AI-provided annotations or with AI helping you understand complex parts. By practicing toward your actual goal, your motivation stays connected to something real and meaningful. Let me share some strategies for maintaining motivation over the long term. First is milestone celebration. Set specific, measurable milestones. Not just get better at English, but complete 30 lessons, or learn 500 vocabulary words, or have a 5-minute conversation without pausing. When you hit these milestones, celebrate them. Tell someone, reward yourself. Give your brain the positive reinforcement it needs to stay motivated. Second is community connection. Even though you're learning with AI, which might feel solitary, there's power in connecting with other learners. Many AI learning platforms have communities where learners share their journeys, celebrate wins, ask questions, and support each other. Being part of this community can keep your motivation high. You realize you're not alone. Others are struggling with the same things. Others are celebrating the same wins. Third is variety in practice. While consistency is crucial, doing the exact same type of practice every single day can get boring. Mix things up. One day, focus on speaking. Another day, focus on listening. Another day, focus on reading. Another day, focus on writing. Within your consistent habit, introduce variety that keeps things interesting. Fourth is real-world engagement. Make sure you're regularly engaging with real English. Watch movies, listen to podcasts, read articles, participate in online communities where English is used. Don't let your learning be entirely through AI. Use AI as a tool to improve your ability to engage with real English. Then go engage with real English and feel your improvement in action. Fifth is periodic assessment. Every few months, sit down and do a thorough assessment of your progress. Test your listening by watching a movie scene without subtitles. Test your speaking by recording yourself giving a presentation. Test your reading by reading an article and summarizing it. Test your writing by writing an essay. Compare this to your abilities a few months ago. The improvement will likely surprise you and motivate you for continued learning. All right, so I want to be really honest with you because I think it's important. Learning English with AI is incredibly powerful, but it's not magical. There are real challenges that you might face, and I want to prepare you for them so you can overcome them when they arise. First, there's the challenge of consistency. I've mentioned it before, but I want to emphasize it again. The technology is amazing, but only if you use it consistently. One of the biggest failures of AI-based learning is that people get excited, use it intensely for a week, then their usage drops off, and eventually they stop using it. This isn't a failure of the technology, it's a human challenge. Overcoming this requires the habit-building strategies I mentioned earlier, plus it requires honest self-awareness. If you know you struggle with consistency, acknowledge that and build systems to help you. Use reminders, find an accountability partner, join a community, do whatever it takes to stay consistent. Second, there's the challenge of quality input. Not all AI is created equal. Some AI language learning tools are better than others. Some might have limited vocabulary or might not generate grammatically perfect content. When you're learning from AI, you need to ensure you're getting high-quality input. Use well-established, well-reviewed tools. If something doesn't sound quite right, question it. Compare it to other sources. Don't just accept everything the AI says as truth. AI is a tool, not an infallible authority. Third, there's the challenge of over-reliance on AI. If you only practice with AI and never interact with real humans, you might find that your English works well in simulated conversations, but feels awkward in real conversations. Real conversations have messiness that AI simulations don't capture. Real people speak with accents, with fillers like and with interruptions, with unexpected directions. To overcome this, make sure you're regularly engaging with real English and real people. Use AI to build foundation skills, then go practice those skills in the real world. Fourth, there's the challenge of frustration with mistakes. When you're learning, you'll make mistakes. Sometimes the AI will correct you, and you'll realize you've been making that mistake repeatedly. This can be frustrating. You might feel discouraged. I've been learning for months. Why am I still making this basic mistake? This is normal. Language learning has plateaus. You improve steadily, then you hit a plateau where you don't see obvious improvement, then you make a breakthrough. Mistakes are part of the process. Embrace them as learning opportunities rather than signs of failure. Fifth, there's the challenge of technology overwhelm. There are so many AI language learning tools available. ChatGPT, Duolingo, Babbel, Busuu, Mondly, Speako, Tandem, the list goes on. How do you choose? My advice is to try a few and see what clicks for you. Different tools work for different people. Some people prefer gamified learning. Some prefer conversation-based learning. Some prefer content-based learning. Try a few and stick with the one that keeps you most engaged and motivated. Sixth, there's the challenge of grammar obsession. Some learners get so focused on grammar that they stop focusing on communication. They can tell you the difference between will and going to, but they can't have a casual conversation. Grammar is important, but it's not the whole picture. Communication is. Don't get so caught up in grammar that you forget that the ultimate goal is to communicate effectively. Seventh, there's the emotional challenge of learning slowly. Language learning is slow. Even with AI support, it takes time. You're not going to go from beginner to fluent in 3 months. You're looking at months or years of consistent work. Some people struggle with this. They want faster results. They get impatient. Here's my perspective. The time is going to pass anyway. In 1 year, you can either know English much better than you do now, or you can know approximately the same amount. Which would you prefer? The speed isn't the point. The progress is. All right, so we've covered a lot. We've talked about speaking, listening, vocabulary, grammar, writing, personalization, habit building, scenario practice, progress tracking, and challenges. But now I want to make sure you leave this episode with a clear sense of what your next step should be, because knowing all of this is great, but doing something with this knowledge is what actually matters. So let me give you some practical next steps that I recommend for getting started with AI-powered English learning. First, identify your primary learning goal. What do you want to achieve with English? Be specific. Not just get better at English, but something like have confident conversations with native speakers, or pass the IELTS exam, or watch movies without subtitles, or get a job at an international company. This specificity will help you choose the right tools and stay motivated. Second, try a few different AI learning platforms. Don't commit to one immediately. Try a few and see which one resonates with you. Pay attention to whether you enjoy using it, whether it feels effective, whether you're motivated to use it consistently. Try it for at least a week before deciding. You need enough time to get past the initial novelty and figure out if it's genuinely working for you. Third, set up a specific time and place for your daily practice. This is crucial for building consistency. Decide when you'll practice. Maybe it's first thing in the morning, maybe it's during your lunch break, maybe it's before bed. And decide where you'll practice. Maybe it's at your desk, maybe it's on your commute, maybe it's at a coffee shop. Having a specific time and place dramatically increases the likelihood that you'll actually do it consistently. Fourth, start small. Don't decide you're going to practice English for 2 hours every day. Start with a realistic commitment. Maybe it's 15 minutes every day. Maybe it's 30 minutes every day. Whatever you choose, make sure it's realistic enough that you can actually do it. Remember, small, consistent effort compounds over time. Fifth, track your progress. Use whatever metrics make sense for your goals. If your goal is speaking fluency, maybe you record yourself weekly and notice improvement over time. If your goal is vocabulary expansion, maybe you track the number of words you've learned. If your goal is something specific, like passing an exam, maybe you track your practice test scores. Having a way to measure progress keeps you motivated. Sixth, engage with real English alongside your AI learning. Read articles, watch videos, listen to podcasts, participate in online communities. Use your AI learning to build skills, then use those skills to engage with real English. This combination is powerful. Seventh, be patient with yourself. Language learning is a journey, not a sprint. There will be days when you feel like you're not making progress. There will be plateaus. There will be frustration. This is completely normal. Keep going anyway. The progress will come. Let me also share something more personal. When I started using AI to improve my English, I wasn't expecting it to be transformative. I thought it would be helpful, but I didn't realize how much it would change my relationship with learning languages. The thing that impressed me the most was the accessibility. I could practice anytime, anywhere, without needing to be in a classroom or pay for expensive tutoring. The personalization was amazing. I was learning based on my level, my pace, my interests. The feedback was immediate and actionable. Over time, my English improved noticeably, and more importantly, my confidence in my English improved dramatically. Now, before we wrap up, I want to talk about something exciting, the future of AI and language learning, because we're only at the beginning of what's possible. The AI tools available right now are powerful, but the ones available in a few years will be even more powerful. We're already seeing the development of AI tools that can understand context, culture, emotion, and nuance in ways that seem almost human-like. Imagine AI that understands not just the grammar of what you're saying, but the cultural context. Imagine AI that can teach you not just English, but English as it's used in different cultures and subcultures. Imagine AI that can sense your emotional state and adjust your learning to be maximally motivating in that moment. We're also seeing the development of fully immersive learning environments where you can practice English in virtual reality settings. You could practice ordering food in a virtual cafe, practicing for a job interview in a virtual office, traveling through a virtual English-speaking country. This kind of immersive learning will likely be incredibly effective. We're also seeing the development of AI that can learn your individual learning patterns and predict what you'll struggle with before you even encounter it. Instead of waiting for you to make a mistake and then correcting you, the AI could proactively teach you things it predicts you'll struggle with based on your learning patterns. Instead of waiting for you to make a mistake and then correcting you, the AI could proactively teach you things it predicts you'll struggle with based on your learning patterns. The future is genuinely exciting, and the foundation for all of this future development is being built right now in 2026. The tools you have access today are going to seem primitive compared to what's coming, but that doesn't mean you should wait. Start using AI to improve your English now. Build your habit. Make progress. And as the tools improve, you'll benefit from those improvements on top of the foundation you've already built. So, to bring this all together, let me recap what we've talked about. Learning English with AI is not just possible, it's incredibly powerful and effective. AI can help you improve your speaking, listening, vocabulary, grammar, and writing. It can personalize your learning to match your needs. It can help you build powerful habits and stay motivated. It can help you practice real-world scenarios. It can track your progress and give you actionable feedback. But here's what's most important to remember. The technology is just a tool. The real work, the real transformation comes from you, your consistency, your effort, your commitment to improving. The AI enables your learning, but you drive it. So here's my challenge to you. Pick one thing from what we've talked about today. Maybe it's trying a new AI learning platform. Maybe it's committing to 15 minutes of daily practice. Maybe it's practicing a specific skill like speaking or listening. Pick one thing and start this week. Don't wait for the perfect time. The perfect time is now. And I want to hear about your journey. If you found this episode helpful, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment telling me what you're going to focus on in your English learning journey. Check out our podcast playlist for more episodes that will help you continue improving. I'm genuinely invested in seeing you succeed in your English learning, and I'll be here with new episodes and strategies regularly. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. This has been Lilly from the English Mastery Podcast, and I'm so excited for the journey you're about to embark on. Your English is going to improve more than you can imagine. You're going to have conversations you couldn't have before. You're going to understand things you couldn't understand before. You're going to feel more confident and capable. And it all starts with showing up consistently and using the amazing tools available to you. Until next time, keep practicing, stay curious, and remember, the best time to start was yesterday, but the second best time is today. Happy learning!